let's take a look into the night sky and see what Kickstarter Pickstars are shining for the week of January 21st, 2019. From Orange Nebula, we have Vindication, where you are trying to gain your lost honor back on an island with unlimited potential, but be warned, time is against you. The game starts with multiple endgame triggers, with possibility of more being added or being replaced. So this means you'll have to think fast and be ready to adapt for the end. You'll be doing so by managing your influence in stats such as strength, knowledge, and inspiration in order to get companions, traits, items, or other different unique attributes. The game sounds like a great resource management game, as well as learning to shift with the end game changes as they may be added or even just replaced completely. It does have some really cool stuff in minis and some cool expansions. But this will set you back $79, but does come with some really cool components in addition to some great game trays already a part of it. So you should actually have everything set in the box. The game itself looked really cool, and I liked the setup, the idea of just moving around the end games, because I don't think usually we've had that usually happen. Besides maybe like it's in the, you don't know whether it's in the bottom 5.
Mm-hmm. Or sometimes there's like the trigger may change, but you'll always know what it could be in advance usually.
Usually, yeah. So I thought that was definitely really interesting, because that could be like, how should I really do this? Because that end game that I'm planning for may not be, you know, when I think I have 1 turn, I could have 5 or vice versa. If I put in a strength, for example, in knowledge, then you get like foresight. But if you get strength and inspiration, then you get courage. So things like that. So it's a whole bunch of like throwing resources like that. So I think it makes me think more like a Euro game in that sense. Okay. Where you're thinking about how to control the resource, and obviously as companions and stuff are going to help you with that. Or they have, I think, they call them exotic pets, but also I think in the video they call them mounts, which does you move around more. So it definitely, and with the end game, I haven't looked at them all, so I don't know how that would affect the thing. And the expansions though, like you can join guilds as one. So it seems you actually build a guild monument on the board. One is like mythic giant monsters that appear and stuff. So, but definitely, like I said, the end game thing is what really drew me to this initially. And I'm curious to see how that plays, and probably will look more into it. And hopefully you'll find that interesting as well.
Valor and Villainy, Minions of Mordak, comes to us from Skybound Games. It's a one versus all game set in a place where the king has died and an evil villain is trying to take over. So it is going to be one player as that evil villain, and everyone else taking up the role of a different character. There's a paladin, etc. It's kind of your stereotypical role-playing game classes, and they're trying to stop the villain before he can take out enough of them. The map is laid out into multiple tiles that are going to be face down and randomly arranged, so as you play, you're going to be going around and flipping them and exploring to see what you find. You could find loot, or you could find minions, monsters, that the bad guy is going to get to control. There's a dice combat system where you have to roll enough to defeat the enemy, but even if you miss, you get some bonus points that you can store up for a future attack, which is nice. And the other cool thing about the game is that the loot that you find at the end of your turn is always converted to experience points. So it's sort of summarizes the experience of a game like a Descent, because there is no campaign or anything, but within one scenario, you're going to be leveling up every single turn. So you're going to be receiving better stat bonuses and make your actions more powerful. Certain characters are spell users. They actually have spell cards they can play. And as the heroes, you're trying to find these 3 special things in these tiles, and each one you find weakens the bad guy, and the bad guy is trying to kill heroes. There's no player elimination. They come back to life, but he still gets more powerful from it. And eventually there's like one final confrontation, which also has its own special rules every time you play, which isn't revealed until the very end. So a lot of stuff going on here. It looked really cool. I like the art style. The title is a little wordy. I don't know why. I looked it up. I was like, is there another Valor and Villainy game? Why did they have to give it a subtitle, Minions of Mordak? It seems a little much.
Because there will be.
Yeah, that's probably true. I mean, there may or may not be expansions in this campaign alone, I forget. But yeah, it seemed like an interesting, neat, like I said, kind of like a Descent, but put into one game instead of
Descent
multiple.
light.
Yeah, Descent very light. For $39, you can pick up Valor and Villainy, which is not too bad of a price, considering it looks like you get a fair amount of stuff going on there. Hopefully, it's balanced, you know, for the one player versus different player counts, etc. That's always an issue with games like this. But if you want this kind of one versus all RPG light experience, maybe check it out.
Coral Islands from Alley Cat Games is actually 2 games in one. Both use translucent dice and play around a theme of ocean conservation in a world of global warming. The first one is Coral, where you will be competing with other scientists to rebuild a reef with the colored dice. You will have to make specific patterns of not just your dice but your opponents, so you'll have to choose carefully where to place. In Islands, you'll be manipulating dice through drafting cards, and scoring will have to deal with whoever has the most cards of specific colors and which dice are on the board or on top of each other. This will require strategic planning of moving and covering other dice you don't care for. I always enjoy games that have a lot of dice in them, and it's nice to get 2 games in one box that use the same components. And considering that the game goes for $32 with the deluxe for $40, that seems like a pretty good deal. Like a lot of these dice games, usually they're a bit more pricey, but to get 2 for 1 at that price, I think makes up for it.
It's a very cool concept to have 2 games using the same components in a box, which is something I feel like, I mean, you kind of see that when games have variants and stuff, but it seems like something that more companies could probably do. You know, the way that you look at like a deck of cards and there's so many possibilities. I remember not too long, like of course there's 504, which is ridiculous, which has a ton of games. Or there was that Looney Labs Triangle game that had like multiple games in one box. It's ambitious. It takes more time, I imagine, but it's a cool idea when they do it.
Yeah, the dice too are also very pretty and stuff. And it was interesting because there is a bit of randomness because you can't just stack as you please. You have to stack usually with higher or lower numbers. I think it depends on the game and character abilities. But especially the island one, I have to think like I really need to plan like 5 turns ahead to know how to stack them because you move them around depending on how many cards have been discarded and stuff. But then your opponent like, oh, he's got so many orange. How can I cover up the orange dice?
It's always the orange dice.
But like I said, I think I do enjoy these dice building games, and this comes with 2 for 1 at. Well, a price I think is probably, I would expect a little bit more for 2 games. I could see a company thinking like, we have 2 games in there with a lot of dice, so we can charge more.
Right.
So at $32 and $40 for the deluxe, which I don't remember what the off-the-head deluxe is. I think you get stretch goals for both though.
Mefisto is next. It only is a small game for $15, a single deck of cards, but it plays with 1 to 4 players right out of the box. A pretty simple game in which players are exploring a dungeon and trying to get the most points by defeating monsters and getting cool power-ups and items. The way it works is there are 3 lanes as you play, and the dungeon is made up of these lanes, and when a card is played out, you need to decide which lane you're putting it in. So if you want to try to attack monsters, you need to put your weapon in front of that lane, for instance. And depending on where you are, it may have different effects. You may be able to move things around, change your powers, etc. There's some player interaction in that other players may be able to affect your decisions outside of your turn. Certain cards may take more than 1 turn to trigger. And there's also a favor system. So certain things that you do will reward you with favor, which you can translate into attack power to come up with these really big combos. And that's another big aspect of the game is comboing. There are a lot of cards that as you trigger them, they let you draw, they let you play another thing, which gives you more favor, and hopefully end up with you having a ton of attack points, and you can just like wipe out a whole power thing at once. You keep playing until the deck runs out completely, and the player with the most points, which you get from getting monsters and stuff, is the winner.
And it's competitive.
It is competitive, yes. You are competing 100%. I don't know how the solo mode works, but it's cool that it's included, but it just seemed like a neat, fun, simple little game. In the video, they have this cool example of like a powerful combo on your turn, and it sounds like that's the satisfying nature of it. Although without the kind of weight of a deck building game, it's just a simple using what you have in your hand, trying to trigger off things on the table.
Yeah, that can be good for a good small game to carry around since it's just a deck of cards, but it seems to have a lot of stuff going on with it though. I do love the idea of certain cards that are like take a couple turns, because then either A, you're like planning, or other players are like, okay, he's going to nuke that lane or something, depending on what it is. I'm just guessing here, so they have to think a bit advanced too.
Yeah, a lot of that going on. So if that sounds cool to you, it's called Mefisto.
Newspeak is a hidden, I guess, teamwork game where people will be taking on the role of either the dissidents who want to bring change to the world, or the moderators who want to keep the status quo. Each dissident will have a code sheet and will try to coordinate with each other to meet in one of 9 locations. The moderators will have their own code sheet, a little bit larger, and will try to guess where they're trying to meet up. The dissidents can have a majority meeting in the right location. They have hacked that place, and it scores for them. If otherwise, the moderators will get the location. This game looks really fun because while your roles aren't hidden like a werewolf or a spy, you actually still have to speak to each other in very, very carefully, because not only do you have the code sheets, but technically the other team has the ability to retranslate and hack your sort of conversation. So it's almost you have to like double speak somehow to get past everyone, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Cool. I like the twist on it.
I thought it's a great addition, because it's not just simple hidden roles that we're used to. Everyone knows their roles, but it's sort of playing around each other, I think. And thematically, it makes perfect sense that because it's sort of your technical dystopia.
Right.
And it makes sense that they can see the messages, but can they translate them?
No, that's really neat. I mean, I definitely saw this one, and just the title Newspeak. Maybe you think of 1984, and it's that makes me excited.
Small thing for something that has the theme bright pink. So at least you're not in dark grays and blacks and stuff.
Right. Yeah, that could be a good thing too. Yeah, for how many dozens of hidden role games that we have and have played, and probably more that I will get in the future, sounds like one that does enough different to be worth looking at.
So Inside the Box Games is offering the game for $23, but that does not include stretch goals in the form of extra content. For example, they've shown one so far that's a module that sort of spices things up. For that, you need to pay $32. And neither of those will include shipping, but there is a nice little shipping chart underneath, so you can actually see how much it will cost you. It is sort of weird, because I know we've seen some Kickstarters just say you get no stretch goals if you pledge to this. The 23 gets you if you like component stretch goals, like if they get like the cards get better quality or something. So this is like a weird, I guess, halfway.
Conditional stretch goal.
Yeah, conditional.
Tiers.
Yes.
Interesting.
But though what's interesting is we only know that one module. We don't know what the rest are. So they're all like coded or something. I don't know if they actually are translated and they just hit a keyboard randomly. But it's definitely one to keep an eye out if you like hidden roles. Because like I said, even though your roles aren't hidden, I think just the sort of code speak is going to be very interesting.
Lastly, it's Murders by Mail, which is a mail-in murder mystery game that also uses a phone app. Basically, they are going to send you in the mail some information about a murder case. Could be of a variety of different genres or subjects. And you're going to have to try to solve that based on the information given to you. Sort of not too dissimilar from something like Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, where you have a directory, you have a map, and you have to decide where to go and who to talk to. What makes it stand out a little bit is, first of all, you actually have characters that you're working with, and those characters have specific skills. And you have to decide where you're going to send those people. So you might send one investigator to a specific location because they have knowledge about that location. And depending on where you send them, you actually go into the phone app and say where you're assigning them to. And that tells the company. And then you will get another letter back with what they found out. So it's as if they're doing these things somewhere else without you, and then they get back to you about it, and you have to use the information they gathered to continue trying to solve the case. A very interesting kind of idea, and supposedly it's something that they said the average amount of turns was like 8 to 12, which could be in real time between 3 and 4 months. So a lot of back and forth stuff going on. And I don't know, so hopefully the puzzles and mysteries are satisfying enough, because I feel like there might be a time when you'd just rather just play Sherlock Holmes because you don't have to wait that long. But it's a novel concept.
This definitely sounds like it's more up the alley for people who enjoy like the murder mystery dinner kind of deal. It's more of the atmosphere and ambiance than simply just a puzzle solving book.
Yeah.
Which I don't mind. I think that sounds really cool. And maybe what could be cool is they take this and maybe update it in a way that it's all digital. Like this, obviously you want paper, the theme, but if you did one that, like in Newspeak that we mentioned earlier, if that kind of thematic where technology is such a big deal, it would make sense that I've sent this guy to that area, then I get an email from him. And maybe sometimes it's encrypted or something that you have to like then unsolve, which could be a cool sort of addition.
It is interesting that it's like kind of like a blending of like very old school with very new school. You can get for $60, you get a full case. They also have for $30. I think it's like a smaller case that you can try. So take a look at the tiers and see what you think about it. But it seems like sort of a little bit of a trend. Like recently there was a series of postcards that I had as a pick called Wish You Were Here, which was a similar idea, but it was just a one-time thing.
You signed me up for Christmas for the Sherlock Holmes thing, and I think we've made a picture of it recently. I haven't solved it because I'm not smart.
Yeah, there's it's called Dear Holmes. It's another mail-in mystery game. So yeah, it's an interesting trend. So if it sounds like something you want to look at murder by mail.
Also, check your mailbox. And before we let you go, we should quickly remind you that the Dice Tower channel is running their Kickstarter, which has a ton of promos, and of course is another board game streamer, YouTuber, so check that out as well. And other than that, those have been our Kickstarter Pickstarters. Let us know if you are backing any of these, whether by mail or by email.
Or by sea, or by land, or by air.
You can let us know in the comments down below, or you can, of course, find us in other places, as you said, email, Instagram, Facebook. Our mailbox moves, so we'll see if we can get them by then. It's sort of magical. But until then, I'm Will.
I'm Jonathan.
And this has been Kickstarter Pickstarter.
Hey, if you liked this video, then like this video and subscribe to our channel for more board game content.
Would you kindly do it now?